The sun hung low over Abuja, casting a golden hue across the sprawling grounds of Aso Rock, the presidential villa that stood as the heart of Nigeria's political power. Inside the grand edifice, the air was thick with tension, a storm brewing behind the polished mahogany doors of the State House. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu sat at the head of a long conference table, his face a mask of controlled fury. His advisers, a mix of seasoned politicians and loyal aides, sat in uneasy silence, their eyes darting between the president and the stack of newspapers strewn across the table. The headlines screamed in bold print: Nnamdi Kanu freed, Court declares IPOB leader's detention unlawful, and Peter Obi's fiery speech: Tinubu's government must face justice. Tinubu's fingers drummed rhythmically on the table, each tap a signal of his growing agitation. The room was silent save for the faint hum of the air conditioning and the occasional rustle of papers as an aide nervously adjusted their position. The president's gaze was fixed on a single headline, one that had sent shockwaves through the nation's political elite. Peter Obi calls for unity, demands Tinubu address Kanu's release. The words were not just bold. They were a direct challenge to Tinubu's authority, a gauntlet thrown down by a man who had become a thorn in the side of the ruling party. It had been a long, tumultuous journey to this moment. Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB, had been a polarizing figure for years. His calls for a sovereign Biafran state had ignited passions across Nigeria's southeast, rallying millions to his cause while drawing the ire of the federal government. His arrest in 2021, under dramatic and controversial circumstances, had only fueled his supporters' resolve. Kanu's detention had been a lightning rod for criticism, with human rights groups, international observers, and a growing segment of the Nigerian populace decrying what they saw as an unjust clampdown on dissent. The court's ruling earlier that week had been nothing short of seismic. A federal high court in Abuja, after months of legal wrangling, had declared Kanu's detention unlawful, citing violations of his fundamental rights. The judge, a soft-spoken but resolute woman named Justice Amara Oak, had delivered a scathing verdict, accusing the government of overreach and abuse of power. Kanu was to be released immediately, with the court ordering the federal government to pay substantial damages for his unlawful detention. The news had spread like wildfire, igniting celebrations in Enugu, Aba, and other southeastern cities, where IPOB flags waved defiantly in the streets. But it was Peter Obi's words, delivered in a televised address from his base in Anambra, that had turned the victory into a political earthquake. Obi, the former governor and perennial presidential contender, had not minced words. Standing before a crowd of supporters, his voice steady but laced with righteous indignation, he had called Kanu's release a triumph of justice over tyranny. He went further, accusing Tinubu's administration of fostering division and suppressing voices that dared to challenge the status quo. This government must answer for its actions, Obi had declared, his words reverberating across the nation. The people of Nigeria demand unity, not oppression. We demand leadership, not vendettas. For Tinubu, Obi's speech was more than a critique. It was a direct assault on his presidency. The man who had once been a political ally, a fellow traveler in the complex world of Nigerian politics, had become a formidable adversary. Obi's popularity, particularly among the youth and in the southeast, was a growing threat to Tinubu's grip on power. And now, with Kanu's release and Obai's bold rhetoric, the president found himself at a crossroads, his authority challenged in a way he had not anticipated. Inside Aso Rock, the atmosphere was suffocating. Tinubu's closest aide, a wiry man named Alhaji Musa, cleared his throat, breaking the silence. "Your Excellency, we need to respond swiftly," he said, his voice cautious but firm. Obai's words are gaining traction. The youth are rallying behind him, and Kanu's release has emboldened the southeast. If we don't act, this could spiral. Tinubu's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening. "Act," he said, his voice low but edged with steel. "And what would you have me do, Musa? Arrest Obai, drag Kanu back to detention. The court has spoken, and the world is watching." Musa hesitated, glancing at the other advisers, who remained silent. "Sir, we could issue a statement. Reaffirm your commitment to unity. Perhaps reach out to Obai, bring him into the fold." Tinubu let out a bitter laugh, the sound echoing in the cavernous room. "Bring him into the fold. Peter Obai is not a man who bends. He's playing a dangerous game, and he knows it." The president leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. He had faced crises before. Decades in politics had taught him how to navigate treacherous waters, but this was different. This was personal. Across the country, in the bustling city of Onitsha, Peter Obai sat in a modest office, surrounded by a small but dedicated team of advisors. The room was a stark contrast to the opulence of Aso Rock, with peeling paint on the walls and a single ceiling fan struggling to keep the heat at bay. But the energy in the room was electric, fueled by the momentum of Kanu's release and Obai's speech. His team was a mix of young activists, seasoned politicians, and grassroots organizers, all united by a shared vision of a Nigeria that worked for all its citizens. Obai leaned forward, his hands clasped on the desk. "We've struck a nerve," he said, his voice calm but resolute. "Tinubu's administration is rattled, and they should be. Kanu's release is a victory, but it's only the beginning. We need to keep the pressure on." One of his advisers, a young woman named Kioma, nodded. "The people are with us, sir. Social media is buzzing, and the Southeast is mobilized, but we need to be careful. Tinubu won't take this lying down." Bai smiled faintly, his eyes gleaming with determination. "Let him come. The truth is on our side. The people are tired of being silenced, tired of being divided. If Tinubu wants to fight, he'll find that we're ready." Kioma hesitated, then spoke again. "Sir, there's talk of a meeting. Some of our sources say Tinubu's camp is considering reaching out, maybe offering a dialogue. Should we engage?" Obai's expression hardened. "Dialogue is only meaningful if it's honest. Tinubu's government has shown no interest in listening to the people. They've locked up voices like Kanu's, ignored the cries of the masses. If they want to talk, they'll need to show they're serious. Until then, we keep pushing." Back in Abuja, the sun had set, and Aso Rock was bathed in the artificial glow of floodlights. Tinubu had retreated to his private quarters, a spacious suite adorned with portraits of Nigeria's past leaders. He stood by the window, gazing out at the city below, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts. The weight of the presidency had never felt heavier. He had come to power, promising unity and progress, but the fault lines of Nigeria's complex society, ethnic tensions, economic woes, and political rivalries threatened to tear his administration apart. His thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. It was Femi, his chief of staff, a man whose loyalty had been tested and proven over decades. "Sir, we've received word from the southeast," Femi said, his voice measured. "Kanu's supporters are planning a massive rally in Enugu. Obai is expected to attend." Tinubu's eyes darkened. "Obai," he muttered, the name like a bitter taste on his tongue. "He's fanning the flames, Femi. He knows what he's doing." Femi nodded. "He's playing to his base, sir, but he's also uniting people who were once on the fence. The youth, the disenfranchised. They're listening to him. We need a strategy." Tinubu turned from the window, his expression resolute. "Then we give them something to listen to. We'll address the nation tomorrow. I'll speak directly to the people. About Kanu, about Obai, about the future. We'll show them that this government is not weak, that we're not afraid of their noise." Femi hesitated, then nodded. "I'll arrange it, sir, but be careful. Obai's words have power. If we come across as defensive, it could backfire." Tinubu's lips curled into a grim smile. "Let it backfire. I've faced worse than Peter Obai. If he wants a fight, he'll get one." The next morning, Nigeria woke to the news of President Tinubu's impending address. Social media platforms buzzed with speculation. Hashtags like #TinubuSpeaks and #KanuVictory trending across the country. In Enugu, the streets were alive with anticipation as thousands gathered for the rally, their voices raised in songs of defiance and hope. Nnamdi Kanu, still recovering from his ordeal in detention, had chosen to remain in the background, but his presence loomed large. His release had galvanized a movement, and Peter Obai was its most visible champion. At the rally, Obai took the stage, his presence commanding the attention of the crowd. "Today, we celebrate a victory," he began, his voice carrying over the sea of faces. "But this is not just about Nnamdi Kanu. This is about every Nigerian who has been silenced, every voice that has been ignored. This is about a Nigeria where justice prevails, where unity is not just a slogan, but a reality." The crowd roared in approval, their cheers echoing through the streets. Obai continued, his words measured but powerful. "President Tinubu has a choice to make. He can listen to the people, or he can fight them. But let me be clear, the people will not be silenced. We will not back down." As Obai spoke, television screens across the nation flickered to life with Tinubu's address. The president stood behind a podium in the State House, his expression grave but resolute. "My fellow Nigerians," he began, his voice steady. "The events of the past week have tested our nation. The release of Nnamdi Kanu has sparked debate, division, and, in some quarters, celebration. Let me be clear, this government respects the rule of law. The court's decision will be upheld, but let us not mistake this moment for weakness." Tinubu paused, his eyes scanning the camera as if addressing each citizen personally. "There are those who seek to divide us, who use this moment to sow discord. I say to them, Nigeria will not be broken. We will not bow to those who peddle separatism or exploit our differences for political gain." The jab was unmistakable, and across the country, viewers knew exactly who he was referring to. In Enugu, Obai's rally continued, undeterred by the president's words. The two men, once allies in the broader struggle for Nigeria's progress, were now locked in a battle of ideologies, each claiming to represent the soul of the nation. Over the next few weeks, the political landscape grew increasingly volatile. Tinubu's administration launched a charm offensive, announcing new development projects for the southeast and promising dialogue with community leaders. but the moves were met with skepticism, with many accusing the president of trying to buy goodwill rather than address systemic issues. Obai, meanwhile, continued his campaign of grassroots mobilization, traveling across the country to rally support for his vision of a united, equitable Nigeria. In private, Tinubu grappled with the weight of his decisions. Late one night, as he sat in his study, he received a call from an old friend, a former governor who had known both him and Obai for decades, Bola. The man said, his voice heavy with concern, "You need to find a way to end this. Oh, Bai isn't your enemy. He's a man who believes in something. So do you. Find common ground before this tears the country apart." Tinubu was silent for a long moment, his thoughts drifting to the early days of his career, when he and Obai had shared dreams of a better Nigeria. "He's changed," Tinubu said finally. "He's not the man I knew. Or maybe," the friend replied, "he's the same man, and you're the one who's changed." The words stung, but Tinubu pushed them aside. He had a country to lead, a legacy to protect. And yet, as the days turned into weeks, the president found himself haunted by the question, was he fighting for Nigeria, or was he fighting for himself? In the southeast, the movement grew stronger. Kanu, though still recovering, began to speak out, his words carefully chosen but no less powerful. He called for peace, but also for justice, urging his supporters to channel their energy into building a better future. Obai, ever the strategist, worked to bridge the gap between Kanu's radical vision and the broader aspirations of Nigerians across regions. One evening, as Obai sat with Kanu in a quiet compound in Umuahia, the two men shared a moment of reflection. "They'll come for us," Kanu said, his voice hoarse but resolute. "Tinubu won't let this go." Obai nodded, his expression calm. "Let them come. We're not fighting for ourselves, and, Nnamdi, we're fighting for the people, and the people are with us." Kanu smiled faintly, a rare moment of warmth. "You're a stubborn man, Peter." Obai chuckled. "Takes one to know one." As the months passed, the standoff between Tinubu and Obai became a defining feature of Nigeria's political landscape. Protests and counter-protests erupted across the country, with citizens taking sides in a debate that went beyond Kanu's release or Obai's words. It was a battle for the soul of Nigeria, nation grappling with its past, its present, and its uncertain future. In Aso Rock, Tinubu continued to govern, his resolve hardened by the challenges he faced. But late at night, when the villa was quiet and the weight of leadership pressed down on him, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was a fight he might not win, not because he lacked power, but because the people's will was shifting, and men like Peter Obai were giving voice to their dream. And in the streets of Nigeria, from Lagos to Kano, from Enugu to Maiduguri, the people watched, waited, and hoped for a leader who could unite them, not divide them. For now, the story was far from over, and the next chapter would depend on the choices of men like Tinubu, Obai, and Kanu, and the millions of Nigerians who believed in a better tomorrow.